Although you'll find no reports or information regarding the issue, there is nothing more heavily monitored than time travel. What I'm about to present to you comes from the Annals of the Department of Time War, an organisation that did not pioneer time travel, but was set up to block it. It is reported that time travel was first made possible in 1946, but had been outlawed since 1905. This is because, of course, time travel is non-linear. Instead, there are some key nations that we must focus on here: Great Britain, the United States, and Japan. First, we must examine the silver trinket, a popular export of pre-war Japan. So what did mid-century Hiroshima-made jewelry boxes have in common with state-of-the-art time travel technology? Project Richmond was the name given to time travel research and development from the period of 1941 to 1946. During this period, time travel was made possible by two features. One, the discovery of dome core fusion, or DCF. For this, two devices needed to be paired with identical code. If code is discovered, it can be blocked by time warp. Number two, in 1946, in an undisclosed facility, relics collected from Hiroshima, including several crates of these metal boxes, were tested for radioactivity. Now, what I'm about to tell you may sound like a bit of an anticlimax. Despite popular conception, the fact that Hiroshima was a place of nuclear attack had nothing to do with the workings of these boxes. Instead, they became time devices because they were solid receptacles that could be quickly rigged up with the technology and smuggled out of the facility to be used by nefarious characters. This was obviously considered a disaster for history and was an upset for the status quo. Now let's look at dome core fusion. For time travel to be made possible, the traveller has to be encompassed in a hologrammatic dome that must spin in the reverse direction to our own planet. The amount of revolutions must be equal to the amount of days the travellers wish to travel back to. If it is yesterday, 1 spin, a week ago, 7. All travel, regardless of the number of days, is instantaneous. In addition, 2 separate devices must be employed, with matching code, as 2 domes a distance apart must be generated. Employing 2 operators and 2 devices limits illegal attempts. Now, code can be a word or phrase or list of numbers, but it must be matching. Again, this limits illegal attempts. Nobody knows how many of these time devices still exist. It is rumoured that over 24 were rigged up with the technology, and the lion's share of these wound up in the hands of traversers. Now, the devices can only be blocked by this instrument here, the jammer. This one used to sit in the Department of Time War, London, and what would happen is, once the secret code was discovered, it would be simply punched into this machine and the devices would be made unworkable. I have no information to share about how many time agents were successful in discovering these codes and employing the jammer to block time travel attempts. But you appear to be the type of audience that wants a peek behind the curtain. Why did I really choose a mid-century Japanese box to be the instrument of time travel? I'd always known what the time device would look like. It was something I've had in my possession for a good 10 years now. I always co-op pieces I have in my home. I don't like anything standing idle. When I was a child, I would always find an object in the house or garage and repurpose it for my make-believe endeavours. Nothing has changed in my films, and I know that since purchasing a particular piece from an antique store went with falls for $1 single Australian dollar, that this piece would be the time machine. It sat on a table outside the shop, a beautiful silver trinket box with blossom decoration that showed its age and neglect. It was Japanese, possibly mid-century, but the kind store owner only wanted $1 for it. The inside felt had gone and had been kicked around. I looked at it. It was still beautiful, perhaps even more so. What had this box seen? My mind raced through the 20th century. I gave her my $1, and when my mother saw it, she asked if she could restore it. She did a wonderful job of lining it with black felt and removing some of the tarnish, and it sat on my small antique table in front of my Chesterfield for years. The piece I have in my hands here is the Time Jammer. It is an amalgamation of several pieces of technology from the last century. These include an elevator control box, a 1950s type pad, mantle clock face, and early micro monitors put together to form something that could exist in a mid-century government time war office. So, these are the devices used to make time travel happen and make time travel not happen. Here is the trailer to the film.
Study, if you will, the fact that I am carrying this book, and that I do so with intense trepidation, for it is a very rare publication, frightfully rare, and ever so frightening. I will come straight to the point. This book details the history of the next 150 years. It is a journal of time travel.
We've been heavily surveying 2 traversers. Neither of them speak to each other during the day or in the evening, use the dog and bone, or talk to anyone, except during working hours. And yet they are communicating codes to one another. But how?
Mr. Foster, these bullets are intended for 2 time travelers.
You can't just lock them out?
Glass doors can't hold time travel.
I'm talking about the very worst kind of thief. One who snatches history.
And this book contains their secrets, codes and all.
Oh no, sir. The author is too clever for that. Riddles. The man who wrote this did so with a sneer and a snicker. Time travel has become too easy. He wants to play with us. I implore your majesty, finance an agency devised to stop these scoundrels. If Great Britain cannot stop these rogues, then no one can.
Why should I care? In this timeline, I am king.
In this timeline, you are.
Dangerous business.